guys, it's Julia. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be quite a bit different from videos that I have filmed in the past, but it's a video that I've wanted to make for many years now, and so I'm very excited to be able to film this and share it with you guys. If you've been watching my videos since the beginning, since about like 6 or 7 years ago, first of all, thank you for watching for all those years. But secondly, if you've been watching for that long, you might remember watching like the expectations versus reality of being hospitalized, or heard me say here and there that I'm having procedures or different things like that. And back then, when I posted those videos, people commented and were asking like, are you okay? Like, why are you in the hospital? Stuff like that. And I wanted to film a video explaining what was going on behind the scenes back then, but honestly I just wasn't really in a good place emotionally to be able to film that video. And so I'm very excited today to be able to share with you guys more behind the scenes of my life. Also at the end of this video I will be telling you guys a pretty big life update in my life, so if you want to hear that as well, please watch till the end. And yeah, just thank you guys so much for watching and for supporting me to all these years. So to start out my story, before I was born, when my mom was pregnant with me, my parents went to the doctors and the doctor told them that I was going to be born with my arm missing. And the doctor suggested that my parents abort me because probably with my arm I would also have other health problems that would come up. And he was just like, you know, I think you should just abort your baby. But thankfully, I'm so thankful that my parents are Christians and that they believe that every life is a gift from God. And so they decided to keep me. They, you know, didn't care if I was gonna have problems. They were gonna love me, and they have loved me very well, and I'm just very happy to be here, to be alive, and to be able to live this life even with the complications and the problems that I've had. So the doctor ended up being right about one thing, and that was that because I was born with one arm, I ended up having other health problems that came up. So around the time I was like 1.5, I started getting sick, started, you know, kind of showing symptoms that something was wrong. By the time I was 2 years old, I was diagnosed with liver cancer and was given 3 months to live. Thankfully, by the grace of God, that was a misdiagnosis, and instead I ended up having a very rare liver disease that will affect me for many years to come in several different ways. So when I was 5 years old, I remember not feeling well at all, and I remember throwing up 2/3 of my blood due to burst veins in my esophagus. So I was rushed to the hospital in the ambulance, and I remember this whole thing very clearly, but something that I remember most vividly is being in the ambulance with my dad and reciting Psalm 23 with my dad. You know, I was 5 years old. I should have been scared of what was happening. I knew it wasn't good. I felt awful, but reciting Psalm 23, especially listening to the part of even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. I loved that part. It gave me such peace. At a 5-year-old, I was just like so calm and so peaceful riding in this ambulance on the way to the hospital. Like, at a 5-year-old, I was not afraid to die. I was like, if I die, I'm gonna go spend eternity with Jesus, and I'm okay with that. I thank God that he gave me such peace in such a scary time in my life. So after being hospitalized for about a month with medicine and occasional procedures, I feel like I was able to live a fairly normal life until the time that I was 13 years old. So when I was 13, around New Year's time, I could not breathe. We just gotten back from a trip, and it was just like, I was so exhausted. We ended up going to the hospital, and we found out that I have pulmonary hypertension, which pretty much means my heart is working really hard, but my body was not getting enough oxygen. And so I was hospitalized for about 2 months. I was put on oxygen. I was put in ICU. The doctor said that even with all the equipment that they had at that hospital, they weren't sure if I was going to make it through the night. It's kind of like a flashback to when I was 5 years old. They didn't know if I would make it then either. Thankfully, again, God graciously saved me. So I remember being in ICU, and I remember my family all coming in and seeing me, and everyone was super worried about me and concerned, and I really don't like being the cause of people's worry. Ever since I was young, I would kind of just like try to put on a brave face, make other people feel at ease. And so I would I would smile, I would crack jokes, I would, you know, do what I could to make other people, to let other people know that I was okay. But in doing that, I ended up pushing down a lot of my emotions, because on the outside I was acting all happy, but on the inside, honestly, when I was 13, like, I just felt shattered, because I was like, why does everything happen to me? Like, I obviously I don't want it to happen to other people, but I was just like, this is a lot, and this is just one more thing to deal with. And I was really, really discouraged about that, but I didn't let anybody else see that. So because my body was not getting enough oxygen, I ended up becoming super low energy. They told me not to exert myself, not to exercise, not to walk too far, not to run. Pretty much my days consisted of laying on the couch. I had to be taken out of school. I just felt like there was nothing I could really do. I love creating. I felt like I couldn't be creative. I've always been a super cheerful person ever since I was young, and I would hear about people getting depressed, and I'm just like, oh, that would never happen to me. But it can happen to anybody. It happened to me just laying on the couch day after day. I got so depressed. Dark time in my life. I didn't really know what my purpose was. Really struggling to just trust God that he knew what he was doing, because I was just like, what are you doing, God? I don't know. Like, this doesn't make any sense to me. So when I was 14, I had a major surgery to close off a vein that was bypassing my liver, causing problems. That was the most physically and emotionally painful thing that I've ever had to go through, that surgery. I feel like it was major surgery, so obviously my scar site was just like super sore, and I was just in so much pain, and I was just like, why is God doing this to me? I was just in a super dark place after that surgery. I ended up needing to take oxygen home with me, which I hated. I felt like I couldn't breathe the fresh air. I felt like more self-conscious about how I looked, and just like, I hated wearing the oxygen, but I had to wear that for at least a year. So that surgery took me about 6 to 12 months to physically recover from it, but honestly, mentally, I didn't recover from it till much later, because I, again, wanted to put on a brave face for other people, and I just didn't want to deal with it myself, because if I did, everything, all the suppressed emotions and feelings would just come out, and I didn't have the strength I felt that I needed to deal with everything. And so I just kept bottling everything up. But soon after that first surgery, my doctor started talking about me needing a liver transplant, which, before they started talking about that, I was like, okay, I'm never gonna go through a surgery like that again. And I was not very bright to make such a promise to myself, because that's not really up to me. But they decided that I needed a liver transplant, and so we started that process of trying to find a donor and everything like that soon after that first surgery. So one of the first steps of having the liver transplant was I needed to read a booklet of all the things that could go wrong with my surgery, and I needed to be the one to say, okay, I want the surgery, you can do it, you have my permission. I was now 15 years old, and my doctor said that I was old enough to make that decision for myself. Normally it went through my parents and they would agree to it, but since I was older, I needed to read the booklet. I just remember the car ride to the hospital where my mom was reading out all the list of things that could go wrong with the surgery, and I just remember being in the back of the car trying so hard not to just like bawl my eyes out, because I was just like, if I have the surgery, if I don't have the surgery, I'm gonna die. And honestly, I feel like I remember that day as being one of the worst days of my life, because I just felt so hopeless. And I mean, obviously I still had the hope that if I died, I would be with Jesus forever, you know, and that's a great, great comfort. But I feel like the thought of leaving my family and what that would do to my family and friends and everybody, I just like, it just felt very hopeless, and I felt like kind of trapped. Anyway, that was just a very difficult situation for me as a 15-year-old to be in. So in Japan, they do live liver donors, and so actually my dad was able to be my liver donor. He went through a whole bunch of tests, and he was accepted as my liver donor. I was really, really happy about that, but on the other hand, I was terrified, because I was like, if something happens to my dad during the surgery, after the surgery, it's gonna, like, that would be so much worse than anything happening to me, and I just could not bear the thought of him doing that. And I wanted to tell him not to be my donor, but he told me, you know, in all the years of being in the hospitals and stuff, he's talked to parents of other kids, and the parents just want to do something to help their child. And he's like, you know, this is my chance to help you in a big way, in a, you know, physical, tangible way, and I want to do this. And so I was super thankful to him for having that attitude. And him being my donor allowed God to be able to save my life again, which I'm super, super thankful for. The time in between my first surgery and my transplant was a very, very hard time for me. Like I said before, I was hiding all my emotions. I would go to church, I would see friends, they would be like, oh, how are you doing? And I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm great, like, I'm good. And they'd be like, oh, you're so brave, oh, you're so, you know, and I always thought that being brave meant that you don't show emotions, that you hide everything, that you just like put on a brave face. And so that's what I always did. And it, you know, I would tell people I was fine, and then I would go home and I would cry in the shower or cry myself to sleep like every night. I definitely was not fine. One of the reasons why I wanted to film this video was just that I just wanted to be honest with you guys and with my friends and family and everybody about what I was actually going through. I just felt so much fear. I was worrying so much about the surgery, about everything that could go wrong, and I was just like, God, why aren't you showing up? Like, I'm here like petrified with fear, and I don't feel your presence. But on January 16th, 2017, I had my transplant, and the night before the transplant, I still felt like I had extreme fear, and I was like, this is like, I feel like I'm being led to the gallows, like this is awful. And the day of my surgery, I was heading down to the operating room, and I just was like, you know, I just started praying and started singing to God, and the peace that flowed over me was incredible. I was not scared at all. I waved goodbye to my mom and my brother, and I was put under with praise on my mind. And I'm just super thankful to God that he, you know, I just realized that when you're worrying about things happening, or like being like, what if this happens, what if this happens, God doesn't always say that he's going to be there in our own like self-inflicted worry, you know, but he will be there when things really, really matter, and when you're actually going through the things. And that's what I've really, really experienced, and I was just super thankful that he showed himself to me in that way. And that's just a feeling that I will never forget. So on the day that I'm actually posting this is actually my 6-year transplant anniversary. Yay! And so I thought that it would be appropriate time to film this video and put it up for you guys. So the surgery was 16 hours long, and for 3 days afterwards I was in a medical induced coma. So when I actually ended up waking up from that, the first thing that I saw was my mom's face. She was crying, she was so happy. I was kind of delusional, I didn't really remember what was happening, but I just remember seeing her so happy. And I didn't know this at the time, but my parents later told me that the doctors told them that I had about 50% chance of making it through the surgery. So that really, you know, opened my eyes more to the fact that God just like, even just bringing me through the surgery was a miracle, and I'm super thankful for that. So like I said before, that booklet of everything I had to read, of all the things that could go wrong, like liver rejection and having to have multiple surgeries after the first one. After my surgery was over, we were all just kind of waiting for the bomb to drop, I guess, for like something to happen, but nothing did, thankfully. I didn't have any liver rejection. I didn't have any of the problems that were in the booklet. So all that worry that I ended up, you know, spending was for nothing. This is amazing, but the liver is the only organ that can regenerate. So pretty much the doctors took my liver out and gave me 40% of my dad's liver. So that 40% of my dad's liver has grown back to its full size in me, and my dad's 60% of his liver that he was left with has returned to the normal size that he needs. And so within like around 6 months to a year, both of our livers have regenerated, and we are both doing great. I was able to get out of the hospital after a month after the surgery, and I was feeling better. Then for some reason, I don't know why, my energy just started going down, and I kind of went back to the state that I was in before the surgery, where I was laying on the couch all day, depressed, without much energy. I was disappointed because I was told that after the surgery I would be the healthiest that I've ever been, and I did not feel like that was the case. One of my doctors ended up telling me that a majority of transplant patients end up having some sort of chronic fatigue after their surgery, which is what I ended up having. And so I, would lay on the couch, be depressed, just be like, oh, this isn't going to change, I'm going to have chronic fatigue forever. And I just kept telling myself like, oh, well, once I have energy, or once, I can get off the couch and do things, then my life will be better, and I will do all the things that I want to do. I spent a lot of time just laying around, wishing about the future. And when I finally decided, I do have some energy, and I'm going to use what God has given me to do what I can today, to make little steps towards my goals today. And so I think when I was 18, I started, very slowly working on my goals, working on things I wanted to do. And I just felt like my attitude, my depression, everything just the mood just kind of was lifted. And I felt before like I had kind of like a gloom cloud hanging over me, and I just felt like that kind of went away, and I felt like I was doing something with my life again. I was moving forward to healing and recovering. Another thing that I started doing when I was 18 was counseling, and I found it very helpful for me because, like I said before, all of those built up emotions over everything that I'd been through, all the trauma, everything, I just had it all pushed down, and it was just a burden to carry. And so counseling really helped me to deal with all of that, and that's one reason why I feel like I'm able to talk about my story today, is because those emotions and those feelings don't bring up the same reactions, and they don't make me feel like I'm in the moment again, and it doesn't paralyze me. So now I'm very happy to say that I am getting better, even though I still deal with some level of chronic fatigue. Some days is worse than others, but I am doing a lot better, and I'm actually doing better to the point where this year I actually am working on transitioning into living in the States. For those of you who don't know, I was born and raised in Japan as a missionary kid, and I've always wanted to try living in the States. So this year I've, transitioned to living in the States. I'm back visiting Japan now, but I have a job in America. I'm living with my sister and brother-in-law, and it's just going great. And I feel like that's one reason why I haven't really posted as much on this channel recently, is just because I'm trying to move, trying to focus on my new life, on my job, trying to figure out my new routine, trying to figure out how, what my channel looks like now that I've moved, and making miniatures and stuff isn't my main priority. I still am going to make miniatures and still going to post videos that I've done in the past, but I'm also excited for the future, just maybe posting different videos or something. But anyway, I just wanted to let you guys know that's why I haven't been posting, and I also wanted to let you guys know that I've moved, and so that in the future videos you might be like, oh, where are you? And it's like, ta-da, I moved. So honestly, when I was going through all this health stuff, I was just like, God, I just want to wake up one day and have all of this health stuff be gone. I want to go back to the way things were, and I just don't want to have to deal with it. And I thought that, being sick and having to go through all this was the worst thing that could happen to me. And now, looking back on everything, I wouldn't change what happened to me, because I feel like everything that I've gone through has made me the person today that I like a lot more than who I was before. And I feel like everything I've been through has given me a story that I can use to bring glory to God, and that I can use to encourage others that I wouldn't have had if I didn't go through all that. And so I'm just super thankful to God that He brought me through to the other side, and that I see hope for my life, and that I'm just excited. I'm excited about life, and I'm just so thankful that He has restored my strength, and that He has been there with me through everything that I've been through. God never promises that life will be easy, but He does promise that He will be there with us every second, every step of the way. He's done that for me, and I know that He will do that for you too. I just want you to remember that he loves you and he has a plan for you. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really pray that this video has encouraged you in some way, and I am looking forward to posting more in 2023 and seeing you guys in my next video. So, love you guys. Bye.